Good morning, everyone. It is November 1st, 2018. I'm here at TalkingPointsMemo.com and Volks.com. First, let's hit this one here. Trump appoints ex-Monsanto executive to head the Fish and Wildlife Service. I thought he was supposed to drain the swamp. And yet he has appointed another Monsanto executive to an important position. This comes from Matthew Daly. And this comes out of the Associated Press. And I know, they're a bunch of fucking statists, but still, they point out the fact that he keeps pointing Monsanto executives to his administration. So President Trump says he is nominating a former executive at agribusiness giant Monsanto to head the Fish and Wildlife Service. Ariella Skipworth of Indiana is currently Deputy Assistant Interior Secretary for Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. A biologist and lawyer, Skipworth, I guess it is, spent more than 6 years at Monsanto and has worked at the Agricultural Department and U.S. Agency for International Development. The Fish and Wildlife Service has been without a Senate-confirmed director since Trump took office in 2017, January. Greg Sheehan, or something like that, a former Utah official who served as deputy director for 14 months, stepped down in August. Under Sheehan's tenure as the agency's senior political official, the Fish and Wildlife Services proposed broad changes to rules governing protections for thousands of species and push for more hunting and fishing on federal lands. I see nothing wrong with hunting and fishing. The agency moved recently to end a long-standing practice that automatically gave the same protections to threatened species as it gives to more critically endangered species. The proposal also limits habitat safeguards meant to shield recovering species from harm and requires consideration of the economic impacts of protecting an imperiled species. And this is one of the reasons why we lose so many species a day. I'm not against hunting. I'm not against fishing. Both activities are great. But we shouldn't be hunting endangered species. It's not a good idea. Because after so many species dies off, there's nothing left for us to eat. Every species, with a couple of exceptions, is critical to the food chain. If one species dies off, it has impact on all the rest of us, including, the numerous wildlife that goes extinct every day. The changes have alarmed wildlife advocates who fear a weakening of the Endangered Species Act, the landmark law that has been used to save species as diverse as the bald eagle and the American alligator. Now, I'm not in favor of having laws in the first place. There's got to be another way to get people not to hunt these species. A way that does not include coercion and violence. The proposals were cheered by Republican lawmakers and others who say the endangered species law has been misused to block economic development and needs reform. The Interior Secretary Ryan Zink tried to make Sheehan acting director of the 9,000 employee Wildlife Services, but Sheehan was barred from the role because he did not have a required science degree. Skip With has been at Interior since April 2017. She helps oversee policy, planning, and regulatory actions for the Wildlife Agency and the National Park Service. So, another Monsanto lawyer and biologist has been appointed at another important position. Now, if you listen to, what is his name, James Corbett, they covered this as well, which is why, or how, or where I got the information from in the first place. This too, how drinking water could help prevent suicide. And these motherfuckers are crazy. Let me get this text enlarged here. Alright, so these people would like to put lithium in your drinking water. Lithium is a potent psychiatric drug, one of the primary prescribed medications for bipolar disorder. It is also an element that occurs naturally all over the Earth's crust, including in bodies of water. That means small quantities of lithium wind up in the tap water you consume every day. Just how much varies quite a bit from place to place. Basically, they are advocating the drugging, the continued drugging of American citizens to prevent suicide. They cite a 2014 review of studies concluded that the answer was yes. 4 of 5 studies reviewed found that places with higher levels of trace lithium had lower suicide rates. And Nasir Ghami, the Tufts psychiatric professor who co-authored that review, argues that the effects are large. High lithium areas, he says, have suicide rates 50 to 60% lower than those of low lithium areas. So, they say in general the United States lithium levels are much higher in the northeast and east coast and very low in the mountain west. He told me on a new episode of the Vox podcast, Future Perfect, and suicide rates track that exactly. Much lower suicide rates in the northeast, and the highest rates of suicide are in the mountain wests. How about this? How about the state quit making life so shitty and miserable for people that they don't feel like committing suicide because they're free, instead of drugging people en masse without their consent. I don't know about you, but I never consented to having fluoride put in my water. I never consented to being ruled over by a bunch of crazy, psychopathic control freaks. I've never consented to this. Have you? Did you sign a contract saying that you would obey a bunch of psychopathic control freaks. I would venture to say you never did. If you apply that 50 to 60% reduction to the U.S., where about 45,000 people total died by suicide in 2016, you get a number of lives saved at around 22,500 to 27,000 a year. Again, freedom cures most things. We are living in a country now that continues to get more and more authoritarian with each passing day. We continue to allow our politicians to place people in positions they have no business in. Here's an idea. How about we don't allow people to be appointed to these agencies that have conflict of interest? That's a good start. But the dumbed-down masses will continue to drink the fluoride, to drink the lithium, and every other fucking toxin they decide to dump in the water, while becoming more and more of a prisoner in their own country. And it doesn't matter who the fucking president is. It doesn't matter which party has control of the House or Senate or Congress, whatever you want to call it, because the end result is the same. Again, I remind you, none of the bad shit in this country could have happened without the cooperation of the Republicans and vice versa. So, I'm saying we need to quit doing the same shit over and over and over again, because the result is always the same. It's always the same, and it is to our peril. These people will kill us by any means they have at their disposal, including poisoning the air, the water, the food, or direct murder through guillotine, hydrogen cyanide, and other avenues such as Border Patrol, such as your local sheriff's and police department, such as the Department of Corrections, which don't correct anything, by the way. So, I thought I would share these two with you because the absurdity of appointing a Monsanto employee, another one, to an important position is you know, it's a direct conflict of interest. And poisoning our water with lithium. And look, if it's naturally occurring, that's one thing. But they're proposing taking that mineral and dumping it in the water supplies all over the country. And that's a whole nother thing. Here in South Carolina, we have a natural spring, a lithium spring. This spring once belonged to a now abandoned old folks' home, where they would bathe in the spring, and they would feel much better about their lives. And if you want to voluntarily go to one of these lithium springs and swim in it, that's totally understandable. But for these people to propose forcing everybody to drink water with lithium in it added, well, that's authoritarian. They go on to say that the number 27,000 to 22,500 years numbers of people saved is likely too high, since you can't reduce suicide rates in places that are already high lithium. So and we shouldn't be trusting people just because they're eminent psychiatrists. I wonder what Jordan Peterson would have to say about this proposal. I would bet that he would think it's a totally terrible idea. If people want to kill themselves, that's their business. If you don't want a high suicide rate in your nation, then probably you should give people a lot more freedom than what we have. More and more people are realizing by the day that they are nothing but free-range livestock for the government to tax into oblivion. You know I'm right. You know I'm right. Anyway, once again, thought I'd share this with you. I hope you all have a good day. Till next time, kill the state before the state kills you.